Good morning, everyone. So today I will be giving a lecture on the biogeochemical cycle, sulfur and carbon dioxide. So starting off, so let us give a brief introduction about what are biogeochemical cycles. So they are the natural pathways through which essential chemical elements travel through the different components of the environment, that is atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere and biosphere. So why biogeochemical cycles are important or critical? Because they regulate the earth's climate and atmospheric composition. Now various kind of environmental changes that is taking place. So if we study the biogeochemical cycle, we can understand what are the major environmental damage that is taking place, and at the same time this biogeochemical cycles are also important for maintaining the metabolism and for specifically important for all living organisms and the ecosystem. So here we will discuss about the like sulfur cycle. So you can see, so sulfur is present in the in the atmosphere, mainly in the form of sulfur dioxide. So this sulfur dioxide, uh, so that is a air pollutant. So when this sulfur dioxide reacts with the water vapor present in the atmosphere, we know that acid rain is produced. Now, when sulfur dioxide reacts with water, sulfuric acid is produced, which is the most common form of acid rain. Now, when this acid rain occurs, so sometimes it can happen that the rocks are weathered, and the sulfur which is due to the weathering of the rocks, when this sulfur dioxide comes into the water, so it gets dissolved in the water in the form of sulfate, SO4 2 minus, and sometimes from the sulfate reduction process takes place, and in the sediments it gets deposited in the form of sulfide, that means S2 minus. Now this sulfide uh, like becomes a part of the fossil fuels, and we know that the fossil fuels are being used in the industry for the automobile purpose also, and for running of various machines. So when these fossil fuels are burned in the presence of oxygen, again the sulfur dioxide is emitted back into the atmosphere. Now sometimes we apply chemical fertilizers, so that chemical fertilizers are present in the form of sulfate. So from the fertilizers the sulfate goes to the soil, and there is a bacteria, a definite kind of bacteria, where the sulfate can be reduced by the bacterial reduction process, and it can produce hydrogen sulfide. Now, the hydrogen sulfide can again be converted to the sulfate, that is oxidized form, with the help of bacterial oxidation. Now, this sulfate is uptaken by the plants. So, from the plants, it goes to the animals. From the animals, from the animal and plant waste, organic sulfur is produced. The organic sulfur undergoes decomposition to form the fossil fuels, and sometimes the organic sulfur is oxidized to form sulfate. Now next we will discuss about the carbon cycle. So carbon cycle is the biogeochemical cycle where the carbon is exchanged between the various components, sorry, and carbon dioxide is very much important because it is the most important greenhouse gas after water vapor, and which is responsible for the global temperature rise, or we can say climate change. So this is the significance. As I have already discussed, carbon dioxide traps heat because it is a greenhouse gas through the greenhouse effect, making it the primary reason for the human made climate. Now the main process which are involved in the carbon cycle are photosynthesis and carbon dioxide fixation. So in photosynthesis, we all know that light energy is utilized by the plants, and they utilize light energy, and carbon dioxide and water reacts together in the presence of light energy to produce a complex carbohydrate along with some amount of oxygen. So there are various carbon dioxide fixation pathways. So there are mainly three pathways: C3, C4, and CAM. So C3 photosynthesis or C3 pathway, which we most commonly known by the Calvin cycle, most of the plants, about 85% of the plants use the C3 cycle, and C4 cycle is mostly efficient in the hot climates. So plants like sugarcane and tropical grasses use the C4 pathway, and CAM photosynthesis is mainly seen in the desert plants like cacti. So here carbon dioxide fixation is carried out during the night to conserve the water. Now in cellular respiration and carbon dioxide release, we all know, we have already discussed that in case of cellular respiration, the glucose which is produced during the photosynthesis process is broken down in the presence of oxygen to produce carbon dioxide, water, and some amount of energy in the form of ATP. Now, what are the sources of carbon dioxide from the respiration process? We all know that plants and animals respire. So through plant respiration, it has been seen that about 60 billion tons of carbon dioxide are emitted per year, and in the animal respiration process, 5 billion tons of carbon dioxide are produced per year. So what are the human impacts on the sulfur cycle? So increased sulfur emission occurs mainly through the fossil fuel combustion process. So we all know what are fossil fuel: coal and petrol and diesel. So coal and oil burning releases huge amount of sulfur dioxide. So in the industrial process, which includes petroleum refining, also emits sulfur in the atmosphere. And in the agricultural practice, we use fertilizers. So this excessive use of fertilizers affects the soil surface sulfur level. So what are the environmental consequences? So most common environmental consequence of sulfur dioxide is like formation of acid rain. So we all know that sulfur dioxide is the major air pollutants which are emitted out from the automobiles and industries. So sulfur dioxide reacts with water to form sulfuric acid. So so the acidification process might occur. That means the pH might go down. It can corrode various kind of monumental buildings, and health wise various kind of respiratory problems might occur from sulfur dioxide. Now, what are the human impacts on the carbon cycle? So obviously, as we have discussed, that carbon dioxide is a major greenhouse gas, so it can cause global warming. The average temperature of the earth is drastically increasing. Ocean acidification might occur through the ice, thermal expansion and ice melting process. The sea level might go up, and extreme weather. So this is the carbon cycle. So carbon cycle is very much simple. So plants like utilize carbon, and ultimately uh, the carbon is utilized by the plants in the process of photosynthesis, and it gives out oxygen. This oxygen is utilized by us for our respiration, and the process goes on.